Hey, good morning everyone. Today we are going to do line 3 of the Linear 64 and breakdown. We are also going to take a look at some of the ShuiJiao knee strengthening we did a few weeks back, as well as some work with, what's on that big list? Hip opening, ball rolling, and all that good stuff. I'm going to be putting up some new videos pretty soon on mechanical breakdowns of hip rolling and all that. So yeah, let me know what you think. Be sure to like, subscribe, and give me requests, and we'll keep going from there. Stay safe.
And the supplies the astronaut has remaining, any such probe would have to be launched in a month. Even then, he would starve a little. That's right around when we planned to launch Shen. Yes, sir. But it took them 2 months to build Iris, and it was so rushed it failed. That's their problem, Ming said. Our end would be providing the booster. We launch from Zhuquan. We can't ship an 800-ton rocket to Florida. Any agreement would hinge on the Americans reimbursing us for the booster, ShuiJiao said. And the State Council would likely want political favors from the U.S. government. Reimbursement would be pointless, Ming said. This was an expensive project, and the State Council grumbled about it all along. If they had a bulk payout for its value, they'd just keep it. We'd never get to build another one. He clasped his hands behind his back. And the American people may be sentimental, but their government is not. The U.S. State Department won't trade anything major for one man's life. So it's hopeless? Asked ShuiJiao. Not hopeless, Ming corrected. Just hard. If this becomes a negotiation by diplomats, it will never be resolved. We need to keep this among scientists. Space agency to space agency. I'll get a translator and call NASA's administrator. We'll work out an agreement, then present it to our governments as a fait accompli. But what can they do for us? ShuiJiao asked. We'd be giving up a booster and effectively canceling Shen. Ming smiled. They'll give us something we can't get without them. And that is? They'll put a Chinese astronaut on Mars. ShuiJiao stood. Of course. He smiled. The Ares 5 crew hasn't even been selected yet. We'll insist on the crewman. One we get to pick and train. NASA and the U.S. State Department would surely accept that. But will our State Council? Ming smiled wryly. Publicly rescue the Americans? Put a Chinese astronaut on Mars? Have the world see China as equal to the U.S. in space? The State Council would sell their own mothers for that. Teddy listened to the phone at his ear. The voice on the other end finished what it had to say, then fell silent as it awaited an answer. He stared at nothing in particular as he processed what he'd just heard. After a few seconds, he replied, Yes. Johansson, your poster outsold the rest of ours combined. You're a hot chick who went to Mars. You're on dorm room walls all over the world. Looking like that, why are you such a nerd? And you are, you know, a serious nerd. I had to do some computer shit to get Pathfinder talking to the rover, and oh my god. And I had NASA telling me what to do every step of the way. You should try to be more cool. Wear dark glasses and a leather jacket. Carry a switchblade. Aspire to a level of coolness known only as botanist cool. Did you know Commander Lewis had a chat with us, man? If anyone hit on you, we'd be off the mission. I guess after a lifetime of commanding sailors, she's got an unfairly jaded view. Anyway, the point is you're a nerd. Remind me to give you a wedgie next time I see you. Okay, here we are again, said Bruce to the assembled heads of JPL. You've all heard about the Shen, so you know our friends in China have given us one more chance. But this time, it's going to be harder. Shen will be ready to launch in 28 days. If it launches on time, our payload will get to Mars on Sol 624, 6 weeks after Watney's expected to run out of food. NASA's already working on ways to stretch his supply. We made history when we finished Iris in 63 days. Now we have to do it in 28. He looked across the table to the incredulous faces. going to be the most ghetto spacecraft ever built. There's only one way to finish that fast. No landing system. Sorry. What? Jack Trevor stammered. Bruce nodded. You heard me. No landing system.
Change sides?
Guidance for in-flight course adjustment, but once it gets to Mars, it's going to crash. That's crazy, Jack said. It'll be going at insane velocity when it hits. Yep, Bruce said. With ideal atmospheric drag, it'll impact at 300 meters per second. What good will a pulverized probe do, Watney? Jack asked. As long as the food doesn't burn up on the way in, Watney can eat it, Bruce said. Turning to the whiteboard, he began drawing a basic organizational chart. I want 2 teams, he began. Team 1 will make the outer shell, guiding system, and thrusters. All we need is for it to get to Mars. I want the safest possible system.
External interpretation, right side.
High-gain radio so we can talk to it, and standard satellite navigational software. Team 2 will deal with the payload. They need to find a way to contain the food during impact. If protein bars hit sand at 300 meters per second, they'll make protein-scented sand. We need them edible after impact. We can weigh 941 kilograms. At least 300 of that needs to be food. Get cracking. Dr. Kapoor, Rich said, peeking his head into Venkat's office. Do you have a minute? Venkat gestured him in. You are? Rich Purnell, he said, shuffling into the office, his arms wrapped around a sheaf of disorganized papers. From Astrodynamics. Nice to meet you, Venkat said. What can I do for you, Rich? I came up with something a while ago. Spent a lot of time on it. He dumped the papers on Venkat's desk. Let me find the summary.
Change directions.
Forlornly at his once clean desk, now strewn with scores of printouts. Here we go, Rich said triumphantly, grabbing a paper. Then his expression saddened. No, this isn't it. Rich, Venkat said. Maybe you should just tell me what this is about. Rich looked at the mess of papers and sighed. But I had such a cool summary. A summary for what? How to save Watney. That's already in progress, Venkat said. It's a last-ditch effort, but the Taiyang Shen? Rich snorted. That won't work. You can't make a Mars probe in a month. We're sure as hell going to try, Venkat said, a note of annoyance in his voice. Oh, sorry. Am I being difficult? Rich asked. I'm not good with people. Sometimes I'm difficult. I wish people would just tell me. Anyway, the Taiyang Shen is critical. In fact, my idea won't work without it. But
Figure eights.
A Mars probe? Come on. All right, Venkat said. What's your idea? Rich snatched a paper from the desk. Here it is. He handed it to Venkat with a childlike smile. Venkat took the summary and skimmed it. The more he read, the wider his eyes got. Are you sure about this? Absolutely, Rich beamed. Have you told anyone else? Who would I tell? I don't know, Venkat said. Friends? I don't have any of those. Okay, keep it under your hat. I don't wear a hat. It's just an expression. Really? Rich said. It's a stupid expression. Rich, you're being difficult. Ah, thanks. Well, being your backup has backfired. I guess NASA figured botany and chemistry are similar because they both end in Y. One way or another, I ended up being your backup chemist. Remember when they made you spend a day explaining the experiments to me?
Right leg, internal rotation.
Mission prep. You may have forgotten. You started my training by buying me a beer. For breakfast. Germans are awesome. Anyway, now that I have time to kill, NASA gave me a pile of work. And all your chemistry crap is on the list. So now I have to do boring-ass experiments with test tubes and soil and pH levels and... My life is now a desperate struggle for survival with occasional titration. Frankly, I suspect you're a supervillain. You're a chemist. You have a German accent. You had a base on Mars. What more can there be? What the fuck is Project Elrond? Andy asked. I had to make something up, Venkat said. So you came up with Elrond? Andy pressed. Because it's a secret meeting? Mitch guessed. The email said I couldn't even tell my assistant.
Change directions.
Everything once Teddy arrives, Venkit said. Why does Elrond mean secret meeting? Annie asked. Are we going to make a momentous decision? Bruce Ing asked. Exactly, Venkit said. How did you know that? Annie asked, getting annoyed. Elrond, Bruce said. The Council of Elrond, from Lord of the Rings. It's the meeting where they decide to destroy the One Ring. Jesus, Andy said. None of you got laid in high school, did you? Good morning, Teddy said as he walked into the conference room. Seating himself, he rested his hands on the table. Anyone know what this meeting's about? He asked. Wait, Mitch said. Teddy doesn't even know? Venkit took a deep breath. One of our astrodynamicists, Rich Purnell, has found a way to get Hermes back to Mars. The course he came up with would give Hermes a Mars flyby on Sol 549. Silence. You shitting us? Andy demanded. Sol 549? How's that even possible? Asked Bruce. Even Iris wouldn't have landed till Sol 588.
Right.
Iris
Figure eights, internal rotation.
Venkit said. Hermes has a constant thrust ion engine. It's always accelerating. Also, Hermes has a lot of velocity right now. On their current Earth intercept course, they have to decelerate for the next month just to slow down to Earth's speed. Mitch rubbed the back of his head. Wow, 549. That's 35 sols before Watney runs out of food. That would solve everything. Teddy leaned forward. Run us through it, Venkit. What would it entail? Well, Venkit began. If they did this Rich Purnell maneuver, they'd start accelerating right away to preserve their velocity and gain even more. They wouldn't intercept Earth at all, but would come close enough to use a gravity assist to adjust course. Around that time, they'd pick up a resupply probe with provisions for the extended trip. After that, they'd be on an accelerating orbit.
Okay, ball rolling. Again, head neck stretch, belly draw to back, grab the feet, palm palm, palm palm belly, and roll.
Fast to fall into orbit. The rest of the maneuver takes them back to Earth. They'd be home 211
External rotation of the hips.
What good is a flyby? Bruce asked. They don't have any way to get Watney off the surface. Yeah, Venkit said. Now for the unpleasant part. Watney would have to get to the Ares 4 MAV. Schiaparelli? Mitch gasped. That's 3,200 kilometers away. 3,235 kilometers to be exact. It's not out of the question. He drove to Pathfinder's landing site and back. That's over 1,500 kilometers. That was over flat desert terrain, Bruce chimed in. But the trip to Schiaparelli, suffice it to say, Venkit interrupted. It would be very difficult and dangerous. But we have a lot of clever scientists to help him trick out the rover. Also, there would be MAV modifications. What's wrong with the MAV? Mitch asked. It's designed to get to low Mars orbit, Venkit explained. But Hermes would be on a flyby, so the MAV would have to escape Mars gravity entirely to intercept. How? Mitch asked. It would have to lose weight. A lot of weight. I can get rooms full of people working on these problems if we decide to do this. Earlier, Teddy said, you mentioned a supply probe for Hermes. We have that capability? Yes, with the Taiyang Shen, Venkit said. We'd shoot for a near-Earth rendezvous. It's a lot easier than getting a probe to Mars, that's for sure. I see, Teddy said. So we have two options on the table. Send Watney enough food to last until Ares 4, or send Hermes back to get him right now. Both plans require the Taiyang Shen, so we can only do one. Yes,
forward roll. Palm,
Palm,
palm, belly, palm, palm, concave the chest, round the edges.
What about the Hermes crew? Andy asked, breaking the silence. Would they have a problem with adding? She did some quick math in her head. 533 days to their mission? They wouldn't hesitate, Mitch said. Not for a second. That's why Venkit called this meeting. He glared at
From
Venkit.
here, stepping out with the right foot forward, roll.
Instead. That's right, Venkit said. It should be Commander Lewis's call, Mitch said. Pointless to even ask her, Venkit said. We need to make this decision. It's a matter of life and death. She's the mission commander, Mitch said. Life and death decisions are her damn job. Easy, Mitch, Teddy said. Bullshit, Mitch said. You guys have done end runs around the crew every time something goes wrong. You didn't tell them Watney was still alive. Now you're not telling them there's a way to save him? We already have a way to keep him alive, Teddy said. We're just discussing another one. The crash lander, Mitch said. Does anyone think that'll work? Anyone? All right, Mitch, Teddy said. You've expressed your opinion and we've heard it. Let's move on. He turned to Beckett. Can Hermes function for 533 days beyond the scheduled mission end? It should, Beckett said. The crew may have to fix things here and there, but they're well trained. Remember,
Changing sides.
Hermes was made to do all 5 Ares missions. It's only halfway through its designed lifespan. It's the most expensive thing ever built, Teddy said. We can't make another one. If something went wrong, the crew would die, and the Ares program with them. Losing the crew would be a disaster, Beckett said. But we wouldn't lose Hermes. We can remotely operate it. So long as the reactor and ion engines continue to work, we could bring it back. Space travel is dangerous, Mitch said. We can't make this a discussion about what's safest. I disagree, Teddy said. This is absolutely a discussion about what's safest, and about how many lives are at stake. Both plans are risky, but resupplying Watney only risks 1 life, while the Ridge Purnell maneuver risks 6. Consider degree of risk, Teddy, Beckett said. Mitch is right. The crash lander is high risk. It could miss Mars,
Okay.
it could enter and burn up, it could crash too hard and destroy the food. We estimated.
Now for the 64, line 3. There's a coil, step press, Baibu, lift, Kobu, in, grab the clavicles, draw, step as you press, strike, draw, strike, from here rolling, draw the arm, and strike. So once again, we have our coil to pop, lift, round, strike. Okay, let's take a look at piece by piece.
30% chance of success. A near-Earth rendezvous with Hermes is more
All right,
doable,
first move.
Teddy asked.
Round,
Much more doable, Beckett
pop.
confirmed. With sub-second transmission delays, we can control the probe directly from Earth
All right.
rather than rely
So
on
from here,
automated systems.
roll,
When the time comes to dock,
step
Major
press.
Martinez can pilot it remotely from Hermes with no transmission delay at all. And Hermes has a human crew able to overcome any hiccups that may happen. And we don't have to do a re-entry. The supplies don't have to survive a 300 meters per second impact. So, Bruce offered, we can have a high chance of killing 1 person or a low chance of killing 6 people. Jeez, how do we even make this decision? We talk about it, then Teddy makes the decision, Beckett said. Not sure what else we can do. We could let Lewis, Mitch began. Yeah, other than that, Beckett interrupted. Question, Andy said. What am I even here for? This seems like something for you nerds to discuss. You need to be in the loop, Beckett said. We're not deciding right now. We'll need to quietly research the details internally. Something might leak, and you need to be ready to dance around questions. How long have we got to make a decision? Teddy asked. The window for starting the maneuver ends in 39 hours. All right, Teddy said. Everyone, we discuss this only in person or on the phone, never email. And don't talk to anyone about this other than the people here. The last thing we need is public opinion pressing for a risky cowboy rescue that may be impossible. Beck. Hey man, how you been? Now that I'm in a dire situation, I don't have to follow social rules anymore. I can be honest with everyone. Bear that in mind. I have to say,
So,
dude, you need to tell Johansson
1,
how you feel.
2.
You'll regret it forever.
So we come through.
I won't lie. It could end badly. I have no idea what she thinks of you, or of anything. She's weird. But wait till the mission's over. You're on a ship with her for another 2 months. Also, if you guys got into anything while the mission was in progress, Lewis would kill you. center, veiled in secrecy. Many people knew the name, none knew its purpose. Speculation ran rampant. Some thought it was a completely new program in the works. Others worried it might be a move to cancel Ares 4 and 5. Most thought it was Ares 6 in the works. It wasn't an easy decision, Teddy said to the assembled elite. But I've decided to go with Iris 2. No Ridge Purnell maneuver. Mitch slammed his fist on the table. We'll do all we can to make it work, Bruce said. If it's not too much to ask, Betty began. What made up your mind? Teddy sighed. It's a matter of risk, he said. Iris 2 only risks one life. Ridge Purnell risks all 6 of them. I know Ridge Purnell is more likely to work, but I don't think it's 6 times more likely. You coward, Mitch said. Mitch, Beckett said. Goddamn coward, Mitch continued, ignoring Beckett. You just want to cut your losses. You're on damage control. You don't give a shit about Watney's life. Of course I do, Teddy replied. And I'm sick of your infantile attitude. You can throw all the tantrums you want, but the rest of us have to be adults. This isn't a TV show. The riskier solution isn't always the best. Space is dangerous, Mitch snapped.
All right, so we have round.
If you want to play it safe all the time, go
lift,
join an insurance company.
round,
And by the way,
double
it's
elbow.
not even your life you're risking.
All right,
The
so
crew
from
can
that
make up their
Kobu,
own minds about it. No,
strike.
they can't.
Kobu.
Teddy fired back. They're too emotionally involved. Clearly, so are you. I'm not gambling 5 additional lives to save 1, especially when we might save him without risking them at all. Bullshit, Mitch shot back as he stood from his chair. You're just convincing yourself the crash lander will work so you don't have to take a risk. You're hanging him out to dry, you chicken shit son of a bitch. He stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him. After a few seconds, Beckett followed behind, saying, I'll make sure he cools off. Bruce slumped in his chair. Sheesh, he said nervously. We're scientists, for Christ's sake. What the hell? Annie quietly gathered her things and placed them in a briefcase. Teddy looked to her. Sorry about that, Annie, he said. What can I say? Sometimes men let testosterone take over. I was hoping he'd kick your ass, she interrupted. What? I know you care about the astronauts, but he's right. You are a fucking coward. If you had balls, we might be able to save Watney. Lewis. Aye, Commander. Between training and our trip to Mars, I spent 2 years working with you. I think I know you pretty well. So I'm guessing you still blame yourself for my situation, despite my earlier email asking you not to. You were faced with an impossible scenario and made a tough decision. That's what commanders do. And your decision was right. If you waited any longer, the MAV would have tipped. I'm sure you've run through all the possible outcomes in your head. You know there's nothing you could have done differently, other than be psychic. You probably think losing the crew is the worst thing that can happen. Not true. Losing the whole crew is worse.
One,
You kept that from happening.
2,
But there's something more important we need to discuss.
4.
What is it with you and disco? I can understand the 70s TV because everyone loves hairy people with huge collars. But disco? Vogel checked the position and orientation of Hermes against the projected path. It matched, as usual. In addition to being the mission's chemist, he was also an accomplished astrophysicist, though his duties as navigator were laughably easy. The computer knew the course. It knew when to angle the ship so the ion engines would be aimed correctly, and it knew the location of the ship at all times, easily calculated from the position of the sun and Earth, and knowing the exact time from an onboard atomic clock. Barring a complete computer failure or other critical event, Vogel's vast knowledge of astrodynamics would never come into play. After completing the check, he ran a diagnostic on the engines. They were functioning at peak. He did all this from his quarters. All onboard computers could control all ship's functions. Gone were the days of physically visiting the engines to check up on them. Having completed his work for the day, he finally had time to read email. Sorting through the messages NASA deemed worthy to upload, he read the most interesting first and responded when necessary. His response responses were cached and would be sent to Earth in Johansson's next uplink. A message from his wife caught his attention, titled Unsere Kinder, Our Children. It contained nothing but an image attachment. He raised an eyebrow. Several things stood out at once. First, Kinder should have been capitalized. Helena, a grammar school teacher in Bremen, was very unlikely to make that mistake. Also, to each other, they affectionately called their kids Day10. When he tried to open the image, his viewer reported that the file was unreadable. He walked down the narrow hall. Group orders stood against the outer hull of the constantly spinning ship to maximize simulated gravity.
Press strike. Drawing to the stomach. Roll, pop, roll, pop. So a few seconds of that.
The crew kept the same sleep schedule.
See the belly rolls.
Oh, hello, Johansson said, looking up from her computer. I have the computer problem.
Okay. We add the step.
Sure, she said. You are in the personal time? Vocal said. Perhaps tomorrow, when you are on the duty, is better. That's fine, she said. What's wrong? It is a file. It is an image, but my computer cannot view. Where's the file? She asked, typing on her keyboard. It is on my shared space. The name is kinder.jpg. Let's take a look, she said. Her fingers flew over her keyboard as windows opened and closed on her screen. Definitely a bad JPEG edit, she said. Probably mangled in the download. Let me look with the hex editor. See if we got anything at all. After a few moments, she said, this isn't a JPEG, it's a plain ASCII text file. It's like, I don't know what it is. It's like a bunch of math formulae. She gestured to the screen. Does any of this make sense to you? Vogel leaned in, looking at the text. Yeah, he said. It is a course maneuver for Hermes. It says the name is Bridge Purnell maneuver. What's that? Johansson asked. I have not heard of this maneuver. He looked at the tables. It is complicated. Very complicated.
Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
The Hermes crew enjoyed their scant personal
Rolling
time
the head.
in an area called the Wreck.
Okay, we're going to modify this one.
Barely room to seat 6.
Roll strike.
Gravity priority.
Roll strike.
Position amidships granted it a mere 0.2 G. Still, it was enough to keep everyone in a seat as they pondered what Vogel told them. And then, mission would conclude with Earth intercept 211 days later, he finished up. Thank you, Vogel, Lewis said. She heard the explanation earlier when Vogel came to her, but Johansson, Martinez, and Beck were hearing it for the first time. She gave them a moment to digest. Would this really work? Martinez asked. Yeah, Vogel nodded. I ran the numbers. They're all checked out. It is brilliant course. Amazing. How would he get off Mars? Martinez asked. Lewis leaned forward. There was more in the message, she began. We'd have to pick up a supply near Earth, and he'd have to get to Ares 4's MAB. Why all the cloak and dagger? Beck asked. According to the message, Lewis explained, NASA rejected the idea. They'd rather take a big risk on Watney than a small risk on all of us. Whoever snuck it into Vogel's email obviously disagreed. So, Martinez said, we're talking about going directly against NASA's decision? Yes, Lewis confirmed. That's exactly what we're talking about. If we go through with the maneuver, they'll have to send the supply ship or we'll die. We have the opportunity to force their hand. Are we going to do it? Johansson asked. They all looked to Lewis. I won't lie, she said. I'd sure as hell like to, but this isn't a normal decision. This is something NASA expressly rejected. We're talking about mutiny. That's not a word I throw around lightly. She stood and paced slowly around the table. We'll only do it if we all agree.
So from here,
answer, consider the consequences. If we mess up the supply rendezvous, we die.
right?
If we mess up the Earth
Come
gravity
in,
system,
reach,
we die.
step
If we do
back,
everything perfectly, we add 533
and draw.
days to our mission. 533 days of unplanned space space travel where anything could go wrong. Maintenance will be a hassle.
Reach.
Something might break that we can't fix. If it's life critical, we die. Sign me up, Martinez smiled. Easy, cowboy, Lewis said. You and I are military. There's a good chance we'd be court-martialed when we got home. As for the rest of you, I guarantee they'll never send you up again. Martinez leaned against the wall, arms folded, with a half grin on his face. The rest silently considered what their commander had said. If we do this, Vogel said, it would be over 1,000 days of space. This is enough space for a life. I do not need to return. But like Vogel's in, Martinez grinned. Me too, obviously. Let's do it, Beck said. If you think it'll work, Johansson said to Lewis. I trust you. Okay, Lewis said. If we go for it, what's involved? Vogel shrugged. I plot the course and execute it, he said. What else? Remote override, Johansson said. It's designed to get the ship back if we all die or something. They can take over Hermes from mission control. But we're right here, Lewis said. They can undo whatever they try, right? Not really, Johansson said. Remote override takes priority over any onboard controls. It assumes there's been a disaster and the ship's control panels can't be trusted. Can you disable it? Lewis asked. Johansson pondered. Hermes has 4 redundant flight computers, each connected to 3 redundant comm systems. If any computer gets a signal from any comm system, mission control can take over. We can't shut down the comms, we lose telemetry and guidance. We can't shut down the computers. We need them to control the ship. I'll have to disable the remote override on each system. It's part of the OS. I'll have to jump over the code. Yes, I can do it. You sure? Lewis asked. You can turn it off. Shouldn't be hard, Johansson said. It's an emergency feature, not a security program. It isn't protected against malicious code. Malicious code? Beck smiled. So, you'll be a hacker? Yeah, Johansson smiled back. Yes, I will. All right, Lewis said. Looks like we can do it. But I don't want peer pressure forcing anyone into it. We'll wait for 24 hours. During that time, anyone can change their mind. Just talk to me in private or send me an email. I'll call it off and never tell anyone who it was. Lewis stayed behind as the rest filed out. Watching them leave, she saw they were smiling. All 4 of them. For the first time since leaving Mars, they were back to their old selves. She knew right then no one's mind would change. They were going back to Mars. Everyone knew Brendan Hunt would be running missions soon. He'd risen through NASA ranks as fast as one could in the large, inertia-bound organization. He was known as a diligent worker, and his skill and leadership qualities were plain to all his subordinates. Brendan was in charge of mission control from 1 a.m. to 9 a.m. every night. Continued excellent performance in this role would certainly net him a promotion. It had already been announced he'd be backup flight controller for Ares 4, and he had a good shot at the top job for Ares 5. Flight, Capcom, a voice said through his headset. Go, Capcom, Brendan responded. Though they were in the same room, radio protocol was observed at all times.
So,
unscheduled
last timeline 3.
With Hermes 90 light seconds away, back and forth voice communication was impractical. Other than media relations, Hermes would communicate via text until they were much closer. Roger, Brendan said. Read it out.
Yay.
I don't get it, Flight, came the confused reply. No real
Slow circles.
Single sentence. What's it say? Message reads, Houston, be advised. Rich Purnell is a steely-eyed missile man. What? Brendan asked. Who the hell is Rich Purnell? Flight telemetry, another voice said. Go telemetry, Brendan said. Hermes is off course. Capcom, advise Hermes they're drifting. Telemetry, get a correction vector ready. Negative, Flight, telemetry interrupted. It's not drift. They adjusted course. Instrumentation uplink shows a delivered 27.812 degree rotation. What the hell? Brendan stammered. Capcom asked them what the hell. Roger, Flight. Message sent. Minimum reply time 3 minutes 4 seconds. The telemetry any chance this is instrumentation failure? Negative, flight. We're tracking them with SATCOM. Observed position is consistent with the course change. Capcom, read your logs and see what the previous shift did. See if a massive course change was ordered and somehow nobody told us. Roger, flight. Guidance, flight, Brendan said. Go, flight, was the reply from the guidance controller. Work out how long they can stay on this course before it's irreversible. At what point will they no longer be able to intercept Earth? Working on that now, flight. Can somebody find out who the hell Rich Purnell is? Mitch plopped down on the couch in Teddy's office. He put his feet up on the coffee table and smiled at Teddy. You wanted to see me? Why'd you do it, Mitch? Teddy demanded. Do what? You know damn well what I'm talking about. Oh, you mean the Hermes Mutiny? Mitch said innocently. You know, that'd make a good movie title. The Hermes Mutiny. Got a nice ring to it. We know you did it, Teddy said sternly. We don't know how, but we know you sent them the maneuver. So you don't have any proof? Teddy glared. No, not yet, but we're working on it. Really? Mitch said. Is that really the best use of our time? I mean, we have a near-Earth resupply to plan, not to mention figuring out how to get Watney to Schiaparelli. We've got a lot on our plates. You're damn right we have a lot on our plates.
Well said.
After your little stunt, we're committed to this thing. Alleged stunt, Mitch said, raising a finger. I suppose Annie will tell the media we decided to try this risky maneuver, and she'll leave out the mutiny part? Of course, Teddy said. Otherwise we'd look like idiots. I guess everyone's off the hook then. Mitch smiled. Can't fire people for enacting NASA policy. Even Lewis is fine. What mutiny? And maybe Watney gets to live. Happy endings all around. You may have killed the whole crew, Teddy countered. Ever think of that? Whoever gave them the maneuver, Mitch said, only passed along information. Lewis made the decision to act on it. If she let emotion cloud her judgment, she'd be a shitty commander. And she's not a shitty commander. If I can ever prove it was you, I'll find a way to fire you for it, Teddy warned. Sure, Mitch shrugged. But if I wasn't willing to take risks to save lives, He thought for a moment. Well, I guess I'd be you. Chapter 17. Log entry. Sol 192. Holy shit. They're coming back for me. I don't even know how to react. I'm choked up. And I've got a shitload of work to do before I catch that bus home. They can't orbit. If I'm not in space when they pass by, all they can do is wave. I have to get to Ares 4's MAV. Even NASA accepts that. And when the nannies at NASA recommend a 3,200-kilometer overland drive, you know you're in trouble. Schiaparelli, here I come. Well, not right away. I still have to do the aforementioned shitload of work. My trip to Pathfinder was a quick jaunt compared to the epic journey that's coming up. I got away with a lot of shortcut.
Okay, everyone, that's the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. As always, please like and subscribe. And if you have any requests, please post them and I will try to accommodate. Stay safe, everyone.